The sounds we've talked about so far make up the basic inventory of English consonants. That is, the set of phonemes across English varieties. And this is pretty stable. There is the exception that there are varieties that are spoken by learners of English might be missing some of these sounds entirely, and some world Englishes, that is, varieties of English that are spoken outside of North America and Great Britain, would lack some of these sounds entirely. One exception, one major exception, is that varieties, even within the UK and the United States, sometimes lack the interdentals th and the. So I'm going to ask you to listen to a speaker from North Devon, England, and I'll ask you to transcribe how the TH sound is pronounced. Sometimes it's the, sometimes it's the. And you'll have access to the recording. It's from a nice website called Sound Comparisons. And this is the list of words that you'll be transcribing. Devon is located in the southwestern part of the UK, of England. And it's quite an interesting variety. One time I was listening to this show, watching this show with my young son called Number Blocks, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out where the speaker was from. So this is the actor who plays Four is from the West Country. Take a little listen to this.
I am four. I want more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four clouds. Hello, friend. Follow me.
So in that short clip, and you're welcome to go back and listen to it some more yourself by looking at the web page and following the link, there's something funny going on there. And what it is, one of the things that is that we're hearing the final R being pronounced, unlike most other varieties in England. So I was having a hard time playing it. I could tell it wasn't Irish. I could tell that it wasn't a variety from the United States. But this person's from the West Country. And if you're interested in finding out more about the West Country varieties, I'd encourage you to follow this link. That's the link to the Wikipedia site about it, which is quite good. And you'll find in general that Wikipedia entries on the phonologies of varieties of English and phonologies of languages in general tend to be quite good. I'm also going to ask you to listen to another pattern of what we might call "ta" substitution. In fact, darn. I'm also going to ask you to listen to another pattern. This is one where you'll hear that the th is substituted by ta sometimes. And this is from County Cork. This time it is in Ireland, which is sort of across the way from the West Country. So we have two substitution patterns here. First, I should mention that this comes from the Idea Archive. You'll want to go listen starting at 23 seconds of the clip to this section right here, where you'll be able to hear the example of North Square. There's just the one example, unfortunately, but it's pretty clear in any case. And so we have two substitution patterns, one in which th and the is being replaced by fa and va, another one th and the is being replaced by ta and da. And a question for you that I'll ask you to answer in Blackboard is, which feature is pattern 1 preserving with this change? And in contrast, what feature does pattern 2? They preserve different features from the interdentals when they change to the labiodentals and the alveolar stops. Eric Thomas has an excellent overview of African American English phonetics and phonology. And this is what he says about th and the. And today, oftentimes, T, th is replaced with t, and these are versions of the alveolar stop. So this one's affricated with a th. This one's dental, or f. So these are things that we've been seeing before, and then the being replaced by d or v. And then there are also patterns of assimilation. You'll notice in the North Devon example and also in the AAE example that it seems like th and the are present, often present in some phonological environments. For example, the beginning of the word, as Thomas discusses for v deletion, which happens only word medially or finally and doesn't happen at the beginning of the word. So what this means is that the sound is present in some environments but not others. And in other words, it's not entirely missing from the inventory. So the contextual differences in ways in which sounds are realized is going to be the topic of the second unit. Okay, so to wrap up on consonants, there are two sets of exercises that you'll be working on. One is on child inventories, and I'm going to ask you to look at the figures in the reading that show the stages of development of consonant inventories and to write a characterization of which classes of sounds are missing and to give the broadest characterization possible. So for example, if you notice that p and b are missing, you can say that the labial stops are missing. So this is an exercise both in finding generalizations over the inventory and also in phonetic description of consonants. And then the second thing that I'll ask you to do has to do with second language inventories. So I mentioned sometimes that learners of English can be missing particular sounds in their variety of English, and this is kind of obvious sometimes where this comes from. Is one of the main differences between first and second language acquisition is that second language learners start with the sound system of their first language, and then they must acquire the sounds that are not present in their first language. And what happens oftentimes in the transition from beginning to more advanced second language speakers is that second language learners will substitute sounds from their first language. So I'm going to ask you to talk about this in a discussion section so we can get examples from different people about changes in the pronunciation of sounds from the target English into the learners, kind of what gets called the interlanguage.